AEW All In 2 or 3, depending what you want to call it, is in the books. That's why 1, I look super duper tired, and 2, I have no voice anymore. So just bear with me and we can get through this together. Because in the aftermath, you do have a lot of conversation on the internet, but I think once again, AEW took a baseball bat and they hit an absolutely home run. And of course, I was there live, and as I tell you time and time again, when you see wrestling live, it does change your perspective on it. And sometimes you can go back and watch it on TV and go, well, that's kind of strange. But once more, your first experiences are always the best. And I really think, much like we said last year, if AEW does play their cards right, they can use this to bounce back to wherever they want to bounce to. I think there are 2 specific matches that we should talk about that absolutely underline this. The first being the main event of Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland, title versus career. Now, everybody says this all the time and it gets super duper boring, but wrestling is about moments, and while you need to do the moves in the ring and you need to be able to tell a narrative, all of that has to come together in a wonderful package where all of a sudden, boom, it smacks you right in the face and you feel it in your tum-tum. You're like, oh my gosh, we're enjoying something amazing together. And that is what happened here, and in many ways you can argue it comes after a 20-plus career from one Bryan Danielson, who right now, as far as I'm concerned, always has to be in the conversation for the GOAT when it comes to what he can do inside of a squared circle. I mean, once again, I know everyone get mad at me. I was able to sit second row for All In, and seeing the American Dragon work at that close, you're like, how is he doing this? You become a little bit sad. You're like, man, I am never going to be as good as anything as he is at this. He also had his family in the crowd though as well, Bree with his 2 kids, and they were reacting the whole time, especially when Swerve was laying in those kicks and Bryan was looking at his wife and children going, oh, I'm not going to be beaten, I'm not going to lose my career, and I'm going to kick this guy's ass for you. I mean, I'm going to use my stupid catchphrase here, but it made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, and afterwards, they could have sat down and played checkers or done some dominoes, and I would have still come on this video and gone, oh my gosh, it's a 5-star classic. You absolutely have to put Swerve Strickland in there too, because I'm sorry, 2024 is just his year. He's also like some kind of weird chameleon. If you need him to be a babyface, he can be a babyface. But here, he became, I wouldn't even call him a heel, but he just had this edge to him, not Adam Copeland, he's injured right now, and he had this serious attitude. And when he got hit with the big old running knee from Bryan Danielson, but he just brushed it off, once again, I looked at him, I was like, oh my gosh, you're the coolest person I know. I don't even know him. But it really was something special. Of course, you needed all of this history and you needed the family, but you also needed a world champion who could sort of complete the puzzle. I just thought it was something we'll be able to talk about for a long old time, and it goes to show. If we are comparing All In to WrestleMania, I don't think they need to compare anything. It just is their biggest show. If you can start ending things like this every year, I promise you, everything will start heading in the correct direction. I mean, Bryan Danielson said this in the post-press conference. This was the best moment in his wrestling career, which by proxy means he probably enjoyed it more than WrestleMania 30. But that makes all the sense in the world because once again, he has a family now. But let's just call a spade a spade. When he was being pushed as the top babyface in WWE, he actually wasn't. The next day or the next week after he won that WWE title, Vince McMahon was like, haha, hey pal, just so you know, when we get to Survivor Series or SummerSlam, excuse me, Brock Lesnar is gonna squash you. That is what he was told right after WrestleMania. If you ever wondered why John Cena had to take that spot, it's because one Daniel Bryan went and got injured. But if you are a massive nerd like me, you've probably been watching him since the Ring of Honor days, which is kind of true for Swerve too, because of course he had that run in Lucha Underground. So to see them on the biggest stage possible in AEW and just absolutely smash it, I kind of compare it to MJF and Adam Cole last year. I know some people had a problem with that match because it was friend versus friend, but if you move all that stuff away and you think about the human element, I mean, these are probably guys that would never get the opportunity to WrestleMania main event back in the day, but now they absolutely do have opportunity, and they are doing a damn good job. Speaking of MJF as well, he is now 2 for 2 when it comes to Wembley because he took on Will Ospreay. And listen, the best way, once again, to use that term, I can sum it up, is that this went 35 minutes. Somebody told me this afterwards. I was like, there's no way that's true. And I double checked it like a geek online. I tell you, sat there, it felt about 12. And even though I was convinced that Will Ospreay was going to win because we were in the United Kingdom, I had that 1 to 5% in my tum-tum where I wasn't sure. That's the perfect jeopardy when it comes to sports entertainment. And once again though, how did it end? It ended with the Tiger Driver, which ties into a bigger story. Now, I'll be the first person to hold my hands up and say AEW probably could have done a better job with that narrative. There were a few cracks within it, but that doesn't matter because if they learn from it and they can apply that to the next storyline that they do, then once again, everything will be moving in the right direction. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what this bored idiot thinks. Did you hear the reaction when Ospreay got MJF up for that Tiger Driver? 50,000 people went nuts. Then he hit it, and again, I was kind of close. That's the most disgusting move I've ever seen. What the flub are we doing? There's also more evidence here, though, because halfway through the match, Maxwell Jacob Friedman did a springboard moonsault, and he landed on his feet. Now listen, I understand that he's just doing flippy-dippy moves, but not when it comes to MJF, because he walks around talking about all this, oh, I don't need to do any of that nonsense. So it kind of comes back to a Young Bucks versus FTR situation, where I suppose Friedman's like, man, I'm going to have to pull out the big guns to beat this guy, which he shouldn't have done. Ultimately, it became his undoing. If we play our cards right too, I really think this international title could mean something, especially because Christopher Daniels presented Will Ospreay with the old version that he keeps talking about. And that's why AEW is also in a very interesting position, because of course you have Bryan Danielson as your world champion, but you have Will Ospreay as your international champion, who is a huge deal, we've just seen it, but also Okada is that continental champion. And I think if we can start doing a little bit more with this, and the fact it's on the damn Rainmaker, well, there is the potential to have 3 titles that actually mean something. Now listen, that is a really difficult thing to pull off, but once again, when you do have these people that are stars or should go on to be stars, or how your core fan base sees as stars, we have all the potential in the world. There are also 3 people that at many times have been described as the best ever. So I don't see how that could be a negative. And of course, we've talked about it time and time again. AEW does need to fix a few things, but they have all the momentum in the world right now. If you were a wrestling fan, I'm sure that yesterday just felt like AEW land. That's what happens when a big show rolls into town. I also thought it was really cool because they didn't sell as many tickets as last year. We had the big WrestleMania type entrance too. That always gets you excited when you go in there. Speaking of such figures, I don't want to get bogged down too much in them because it's so damn boring. But I think we as a community have to remember, even though they did sell 81,000 or whatever the flub it was in 2023, selling 50,000 tickets to anything in this life is amazing. And because I wanted to have a point or evidence I could use, I went and checked out what WrestleMania did this year. I think night 1 did like 57,000 people paid. Like there were more people in the building, but 57,000 people had paid. So this is just a good thing. And I'm not trying to pretend that WWE isn't leagues ahead of AEW. Of course they are, but I do think in terms of the wrestling industry in general, the fact that AEW can do this, well, it's going to serve you, it's going to serve me, and it's absolutely going to serve the wrestlers. And listen, I went to WrestleMania this year, had the best time. I went to All In this year, I had the best time, and they present me with completely different products. So my wrestling meters feel completely filled up right now. Listen, there was a 20-year period there when WWE was in top, and they did rest on their laurels, then my wrestling meters weren't filled up at all. And if my meters aren't filled up, how am I meant to perform my finisher? It's also the first time I'll be the first to admit that I do not mind how AEW structures its pay-per-views, because the matches just come so fast. Like when you need a bathroom break, you're like, oh my gosh, the next one is starting. And sure, they do go a long time, but being there live, because it is just zip, 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 go, 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 well, it has changed my opinion. So more for me, but I've told you this before, I'm an absolute idiot. So if you didn't go to the show, I'd absolutely love to hear your opinions, because of course I have a biased perspective on this, but you can drop me a comment below. But AEW has something here, and of course they're going to Texas next year in a stadium, and I believe that holds like 40,000 people. So if for 3 years in a row, they can do 80, 50, 40, let's not be all negative Nancy about this. This is a positive peak thing. While I hope that WWE keeps kicking ass, I hope that AEW, like I keep saying, can use this to just grow back to what we want them to be. All the professional wrestling is going to be much better. Plus Nigel McGuinness came back in that Casino Battle Royal or Casino Gauntlet, and we had Sting. I'll tell you a little story about Sting in case you do care. I wasn't expecting Sting. I'm like a massive Metallica fan. When Seek and Destroy played, he did come out. I may have had water in my seeing devices. I cannot confirm this news. As we are here as well, I just want to thank everyone for being so kind to me over All In weekend. You really do say pleasant things to me, which makes me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, but like I say, engage with this video as much as you can, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And when you are down in the comments, if you did go, just share a nice story. Then somebody else can share a nice story. Hopefully that just makes us all feel good. That's what wrestling is all about. I appreciate you, my friends. Thank you very much for always supporting me, and I will see you soon.